Yes, hello. My name is Ogenrod Victor, and I'm going to be moving you through risk management and projects. Basically, we have to understand what a project is and why do we need risk management in projects. So, a strategic approach, we will be looking at a strategic approach to identifying, analyzing, and mitigating risks, project risks in this case. So, let's look at what is a project risk. It's an uncertain event or condition. If it occurs, it has a positive or a negative effect on project objectives. And basically, I have a small table here describing the component that is involved in project risks. And the first component, we have probability. So probability is the likelihood of occurrence on a scale of 0 to 100%. So we look at impact. What impact does the risk have on the project? This could be an effect on cost, schedule, quality, or the scope of a project. What's the trigger? What are the warning signs that there could be a risk? And what's the timing? Timing is when the risk occurs. So looking at a quote from Mark Twain, it says, "What gets us in trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so." So that's a very powerful quote we can take from Mark Twain. So why do we need risk management? Here I have a small table showing without risk management, what do we encounter? And with risks, what gains do we get? So on my left, you have the reactive problem solving, the budget overruns, the schedule delays, the scope creeps. These are all descriptions, or I can say what we encounter when we don't plan for our project. And on my right-hand side, we have proactive planning. That's what you gain when you plan the project ahead. You get informed scheduling, realistic cost estimates, and controlled management. So here is a research done by McKinsey 2012, and it basically looks at uh, large projects, IT projects, and 45% over budget, 7% will most times finish over time. Only 12% of projects finish on time. So when you look on a scale of 1 to 100, really only 12%, this shows you the importance of risk management. And most of these projects are affected by the risks that could not be planned on time. So here I'll be moving you through the 5 core steps of risk management. We have strategic planning, risk identification, risk analysis, response planning, and monitoring and control. I think that one is also self-explanatory. When you strategy, you define the roles and you discover the potential risks. You analyze qualitatively or quantitatively. When you look at the response planning, what's the mitigation and contingency plan? So coming to the strategy, we have a small table looking at what are the foundation elements, the risk tolerance, how much risk is accepted, the responsibilities, the risk categories, the reporting protocols, and the resource allocation. What budget, what risk, how risk is communicated, that's the reporting protocols. How do we classify the risks? So when you look at a risk management plan, there are the methodologies and tools to be used, the risk categories, the definitions, the probability, basically the PMI, the probability and the impact matrix, and the stakeholder risk tolerance. So, how do we identify the risks? it's quite important that we know where our risks stem from. And here we have categorized our risks in form of scope, the schedule, the resource, the technical, and the external, and organization. So under the scope, we have requirement changes, scope creeps, the estimation errors under the schedule, the staff turnover, the staff turnover, the new technology. These are project risks. Like when you're encountering a new technology, that could also be a risk. What are the regulatory changes being made? Those are all risks to a project. So what are the central tool for risk documentation? We have the risk ID. This is a unique identifier. The risk type, what type of threat or opportunity. You just iterate through the category, the description, the trigger, the probability, and the impact. So here is a smaller table showing how risks are graded from very low risk up to high risks. This is actually what you can use for mapping up your risks in a qualitative risk analysis with the table or the modules are, when you look at it being extreme risks, H standing for high risk. So that's so what is basically quantitative risk analysis. So here is where you now go into deep mathematical uh, procedures and calculations to really get a deeper understanding of what risks and some of the techniques you can use, expected monetary value, the EMV, the decision tree analysis, the PERT analysis. Those are all what you can use. So how do we respond? Response planning. One, there are two types of response planning. Strategies for threats, we have the negative threats and the positive risks. So when you look at avoiding, you avoid, you eliminate the threat immediately, entirely. An example is removing an approach or removing a scope. You transfer, you shift it to a third party. Could be insurance, fixed price. So you mitigate and you accept. Sometimes you have to acknowledge and you have to, yeah. So coming to the positive, we have exploit, share, enhance, and accept. So basically, that is where you take advantage of these positive risks that have manifested during your project. Coming here, we have monitoring and control. How do you monitor risks and how do you control these risks? Number one, you have to collect status. You have to analyze. Analysis is quite key to understanding the nature of the risks you're dealing with and you respond. But amidst all this, one key thing that is important is communication. There has to be communication with stakeholders. All stakeholders have to be involved to make sure that no one is left behind. So, how do we monitor and control? These are some of the key activities. You track the identified risks and trigger conditions. You identify the new risks throughout the life cycle project. The process of monitoring risk is continuous throughout the entire life cycle of developing, of working on a software, developing a software, could be an IT project, whatever project. The process of monitoring is a continuous process. You evaluate the effectiveness of the risk response and make sure that you update the risk register regularly. So coming to our next slide, here we look at the distribution of risk impact. Number one, we have categorized. Here is a 3-column table showing the category, the subcategory. What or how long does this risk or what impact does it have on a project? And here we're looking at the changes. When you make a change, it will averagely affect a project up to about 8.2 weeks. So you can see the impact aligned on your right extreme right. So basically, you can iterate through resource. If you delay with funding, what will happen? How long might it affect a project? So coming to risk management at different levels, but our main focus is the project risk management. But these are the organizational levels of risk management from the enterprise, the portfolio, and the program. So when you come down to what are the success factors for effective risk management, there has to be commitment, leadership commitment. Could be from the sponsors and executives, but there has to be a strong leadership for a project to succeed, for the risks to be mitigated. There has to be integration. Risk management should be embedded in the early process of the project. It's quite key. You cannot operate a project without integrating how you will counteract risks that develop, or how you'll embrace the positive risks that come along the way. Communication, there has to be open, honest, and frequent risk discussions. Clear ownership, there should be a significant owner. Each significant risk must be assigned to an owner, so that when a problem develops, they know who will counter that risk. There has to be a continuous process. It's not a one-time event, it's ongoing throughout the entire life cycle, as I have always been saying. So there are many stakeholders who are handling risk management. But here, let's look at a project manager's role, who is a champion of risk management practices. Remember, a project manager is the one who leads the project team, so he's quite key. So he ensures that the team engagement in risk identification. He is a champion of risk management because he knows that when a risk develops and it has not been taken care of, it could drag them behind. So he's the one who acts promptly on risk triggers. What are those triggers? What are those indicators that are affecting the risk, affecting the project? So here are the common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Ignoring risk management. If you ignore risks, you will enter a reactive crisis mode. And how do you address that? You make sure that risk management is mandatory. Over optimistic estimates. Here has to do with the schedule, the cost overruns. Use range estimates and historical data to make sure that you don't run above the defined budget or what was planned at the beginning, So moving on, you have the poor scope definition, the weak change control, the single point estimates, not having a contingency plan, or the contingency reserves. All of this, when you add them up, they impact a project. So looking at a quote from John Stevens, the chief engineer of the Panama Canal, he said one important quote that says intelligent management must be managed based on the exact knowledge of facts. Guesswork will not do. So you have to plan the project from the beginning. So as I conclude, I will say that risk management transforms impossible projects into merely difficult ones, and the difficult ones into successful deliveries. So the process of risk management has to be embedded into a project from the beginning. It's something that you plan for at the start of the project. I want to thank you all. Thank you for listening. And I want to wish you all a good afternoon, a good morning, whatever time you may be watching us from. Thank you.